Everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the City of New Rochelle's virtual launch event for Adopt Clean Energy, a community program to educate residents and business owners about the benefits of clean heating and cooling technologies, connect the community with contractors, and help New Rochelle with its green energy journey. My name is Marilyn Moore, and I'm an assistant project manager for the clean heating and cooling team at NYSERDA. We have a fantastic agenda with some esteemed speakers for you tonight, and I'm excited. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. I'll ask that participants keep themselves muted for the duration of the event, but feel free to post your questions in the chat at any time. And at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. I'll be introducing the speakers as they appear on the agenda tonight. So first up, we have the Honorable Noam Bramson, Mayor of the City of New Rochelle, with a welcome address. Mayor Bramson, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you very much, Marilyn, and ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We have an action-packed agenda filled with useful information, so I'm going to be very brief and simply express my thanks to the Urban League and to Comrie and to NYSERDA for launching this initiative. I certainly hope as many residents of New Rochelle as possible will take advantage of this opportunity to save money and at the same time do right by the environment. So thank you all for being part of this, and I look forward to a great discussion.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bramson. Next, I'll ask Donovan Gordon, Director of NYSERDA's Clean Heating and Cooling Team, to say a few words.
First of all, thank you, Mayor Bramson, for giving me a little bit extra time to talk, because I have to introduce the congressman, and it's going to take some time. But first of all, I'm here to introduce Congressman Jamal Bowman. But before I get into that, first of all, I'll say thank you for avoiding government shutdown. And we need that infrastructure bill to move our clean energy agenda forward. But also, NYSERDA is really delighted to be supporting the Urban League of Westchester, a historic civil rights organization, and Comrie Enterprises, a minority-owned business in advancing clean energy in the city of New Rochelle. Just so everyone knows, NYSERDA is supporting this 100%. We're 100% funding this effort. So we are going to do all we can to ensure their success. So we've got your back, your front, your side. We want you to succeed in New Rochelle and Mount Vernon and anywhere else you go. So on to Congressman Bowman. Congressman Jamal Bowman is in his first term representing the 16th Congressional District, covering the northern Bronx and southern half of Westchester. Congressman Bowman serves on the following committees, and it is exhaustive. The House Committee on Education and Labor, Subcommittee on Early Childhood, Elementary and Secondary Education, Subcommittee on Higher Education and Workforce Investment, Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Human Services, House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, and he serves as chair of the Subcommittee on Energy. Wow. But a little bit about his history here, which most of you may know, some of you may not know. I'm taking you way back now, Congressman, to his first job out of college was as a crisis management teacher in the South Bronx Elementary School. He went on in 2009, where he founded the Cornerstone Academy for Social Action, which is a charter school in the Bronx. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce this extraordinary man, and now one of my heroes, Congressman Jamal Bowman.
Stop it, man. Stop it. How you doing? Thank you so
much great, man.
For that introduction. I always feel uncomfortable when I have to follow my own bio because it puts pressure on me to make really strong remarks. So I'll do my best. One correction, Cornerstone Academy for Social Action was actually a public school, not a charter school. District public school. No offense to charters, but we opened a district public school. So thank you so much for that warm introduction. I just want to start by giving a huge shout out and congratulating the Urban League of Westchester, Comrie Enterprises, NYSERDA, and the City of New Rochelle for the successful launch of the Adopt Clean Energy program. Thank you for embarking on this transformative work. I also want to thank my fellow legislators and public servants who are joining us tonight, as well as the organizers and green energy entrepreneurs who are participating. This work takes all of us, and it needs to be happening at every level of government. In Westchester and beyond, also in the Bronx, where I represent, we need to do everything we can to invest in green housing and green buildings. This is about saving lives right now, and it's about safeguarding the future of our children and humanity as a whole. We all saw the devastation that Hurricane Ida inflicted on people, homes, and businesses. We saw the flooding of New Rochelle High School. And by the way, I've been fighting in Congress for a Green New Deal for public schools that would not only protect our K-12 school facilities against these storms, but also convert schools to heat pumps as part of eliminating carbon emissions. Electrifying and greening our housing and buildings is an absolutely critical part of solving climate change. And unfortunately, it has not been getting enough attention. We are fighting right now for billions of dollars for energy efficiency and building upgrades in the Build Back Better bill. But even when we succeed, the money will only be a first step in the right direction. So I'm going to continue to push for additional federal investment to shift our homes and buildings to heat pumps with a focus on low-income housing and communities of color. These are communities that have been redlined historically throughout our country's history, to build on the incredible work that you are doing here in New Rochelle. As chair of the Energy Subcommittee of the House Space Science and Tech Committee, I am laser focused on accelerating the adoption of green technologies like heat pumps. And we need to make sure that Latino, Black, and low-income communities are not only benefiting from these technologies and related jobs, but also innovating, creating, and moving this sector forward. Every step of the way, we need to center historically neglected communities in the process. And that is why I'm so thrilled to be supporting and learning from the efforts that you are kicking off here in New Rochelle. What you are doing in New Rochelle, just like what's happening in Mount Vernon, can be a model for the entire country. So thank you to the Urban League. Thank you, NYSERDA. Thank you, Comrie Enterprises. Thank you, New Rochelle and Mayor Branston. Let's get to work. Let's do great work together. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Congressman Bowman, for being here and for those very important messages that everyone needs to hear. Now, to pivot, you have the question, what are heat pumps? And I'll ask Jeremy Koo, Renewable Energy, Climate and Sustainability Consultant Manager from Cadmus, to teach us a bit about the subject. Jeremy.
Thank you, Marilyn. Can everyone see my slides?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy Koo from I'm an associate at Cadmus. I've been working on building electrification related projects with NYSERDA and in the state of New York for over 6 years now. I will just give a sort of a brief overview about heat pumps and their importance for achieving the state's goals, as well as to just give a brief introduction to the technology themselves and some information that may be valuable. There will be other speakers on this call that will speak in greater detail about some of these technologies, so I'll keep things brief and at a high level here. As most of you should know, New York has some of the nation's leading climate targets. Through the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, New York has set targets of achieving 85% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from 1990 levels by 2050. Achieving that requires addressing all sectors of the economy and all areas in which we consume energy. Believe it or not, the average home in New York, almost 75% of the energy used in a New York home is for heating and water heating and cooling. And the average New York household, as I'm sure I don't have to remind you, pays over nearly $2,500 a year in energy bills. So achieving that target of 85% reduction is going to need not just reducing the amount of energy that is consumed in homes, but switching from fossil fuels, which are the primary form of space and water heating in buildings in New York, to heat pumps that can be powered by renewably generated electricity. Adopt Clean Energy is one of many community programs across the state right now that are being supported by NYSERDA. Just a snapshot of all of the efforts that are active across the entire state. So this our community here is one of many efforts that are being currently supported by the state. So why adopt clean energy and why pursue heat pumps? Well, energy costs and energy burdens are a significant concern to New Yorkers, and heat pumps can in many cases provide energy savings, particularly when combined with other energy efficiency measures and switching to renewable forms of electricity. Improving home comfort is another concern that I think many have noticed, particularly over the last 18 months of being more or less trapped in our homes. Improving the distribution of heating in homes and also adding air conditioning has been a concern that many across the Northeast have faced. Reducing the combustion of fossil fuels in homes also can lead to healthier homes with the air pollutants related to combusting fossil fuels associated with different forms of increased risk of asthma and respiratory illnesses. And of course, the primary driver behind this and why New York is investing so heavily in clean heating, cooling, electrification, and in these community initiatives is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in support of achieving the state's goals. So the goals of adopting clean energy here is to both improve the efficiency of your home, to reduce the amount of energy needed for heating and cooling, and then to replace existing heating and cooling solutions with cheaper, cleaner, and more efficient solutions. Obviously, heat pumps are perhaps not the most well-known technology that folks associate with reducing emissions, and so this whole process can be a little complicated, and that's exactly why Adopt Clean Energy is here, to make the process more straightforward and provide support to homeowners and businesses across the region as they embark on this journey. So, jumping into heat pumps, what exactly is a heat pump? Well, most heating systems burn fossil fuels to generate heat and distribute that heat throughout your home. But there is heat in the ambient air, even in the winter, and in the ground that can be harnessed and transferred into your home by using a heat pump. If that sounds a little strange, well, there are heat pumps. The same technology that drives heat pumps is already present in your home with refrigerators, air conditioners that use refrigerants to extract heat from one space and move it into another. If you think about a refrigerator, it's really just removing heat from inside of that box and pushing it out into the surrounding air. There are heat pumps that can meet all of your space heating, cooling, and hot water needs, whether they are air source heat pumps, ground source or geothermal heat pumps, or heat pump water heaters for providing water heating. So air source heat pumps, the best way that I like to think about them is like air conditioners that can also run in reverse to provide heating as well as cooling. Air source heat pumps have an outdoor unit connected to one or more indoor units or to central ductwork in a home. Heat pumps have traditionally had a bit of a negative reputation in the Northeast because of poorer performance in cold climates, but new cold climate heat pumps have been entering the market over the past decade that can provide heat down to -13 Fahrenheit or below. In many cases, they're installed with your existing heating system, but there are thousands of homes across the Northeast that are using heat pumps only to provide their source of heat, even in the cold winters here in New York. Some of the benefits of air source heat pumps. A lot of homes across the Northeast are old and can't easily install ductwork. So many folks use ductless air source heat pumps as a means to provide air conditioning as well as heating without having to install ductwork, as a great way to improve comfort and remove noisy window units. There are a lot of flexible applications for air source heat pumps. You don't necessarily need to replace your existing system, or you can choose to or you can install ductless systems in a variety of different ways to, for example, just provide space heating and cooling to, a living space, or to bedrooms, or to new additions, depending on your needs. Ductless systems are inherently zoned systems, so you can gain a little bit more control over the comfort in different spaces in your home. And they're also very quiet. The first time I heard a ductless heat pump operating, I could barely hear it until I put my head up next to the indoor unit. Ground source heat pumps, or geothermal heat pumps, are another heat pump solution, except instead of using the outdoor air as a source or sink for heat, it uses the ground. Since the ground temperature is much more stable, the system can be more efficient year-round. That's not to say that cold climate air source heat pumps are inefficient, but because of the more consistent ground temperature, ground source heat pumps will be more efficient over the course of the year. Ground source heat pumps, or geothermal heat pumps, are designed for a variety of central whole home applications. They can connect to some hot water baseboards, radiant floor heating, or to ductwork in your home. The ground loop, the source of where heat is extracted or rejected into the ground, can be installed in either vertical applications, or in horizontal applications, as you can see in the images on the right here. Vertical applications will involve drilling a few hundred feet underground, whereas horizontal applications will use some excavation of a yard to be able to lay the piping to transfer heat. If you also happen to have a source of groundwater on your property, they can also be installed as open loop systems using the groundwater to extract or reject heat. Ground source heat pumps are the most efficient heating and cooling system that is available. While air source heat pumps are usually around 250% efficient, that is, for every 1 unit of electricity used, you get 2.5 or more units of heat. Ground source heat pumps can exceed 350% efficiency, whereas the most efficient fossil fuel or electric resistance heating system will never exceed 100%. Again, because of the more stable temperature, ground source heat pumps have less of a drop off of efficiency in the dead of winter and in the hottest days of the summer. Ground source heat pumps also have a very long system lifetime. The ground piping that's installed in your yard is expected to last for at least 50, if not 100 years, whereas the indoor components for 25 years or more. Ground source heat pumps, as a standalone and sole source of heating or cooling, can fully eliminate fossil fuels from your homes and can also provide domestic hot water if desired. The last form of heat pumps we'll talk about are heat pump water heaters, which really just look like a hot water tank with heat pump elements on top of it, and it uses the indoor air around the heat pump water heater to heat your hot water. There are also backup electric elements in there for meeting periods of higher hot water demand, so that your hot water can be delivered consistently to meet your needs. Similar to the other heat pump technologies, they are 200% or more efficient than typical electric water heaters, and significantly more efficient than fossil fuel water heaters. They're also very commonly in the Northeast installed in unfinished basements. And so when they are operating, they will also naturally dehumidify the space. So they can be a pretty affordable heat pump solution for saving money. The cost of these technologies vary significantly from home to home. No two projects are the same, even if you install the exact same equipment. There may be some different needs between homes or preferences for the homeowner. But here are some of the potential costs that you can see for the technologies here with air source heat pumps, depending on the solution you're looking for, starting at around $4,000. Ground source heat pumps at around $35,000, and heat pump water heaters at around $3,000. How much exactly will you save? Well, it depends very much on what will be the costs of fuels over the course of the 20+ year lifetime that you have these systems in place. Folks that are using oil or propane and electric heating now will see the most heating fuel savings. Folks on gas will not really see as many savings unless you are using solar PV as your form of providing electricity to your system. But of course, there are also some benefits to switching to electricity. Electricity prices tend to be much more stable as a regulated fuel, whereas as I'm sure anyone who's heated with oil knows, prices spike from season to season. And similarly, gas futures are at a substantial high right now for the coming heating season. So some of that pricing volatility can be addressed by switching to heat pumps, particularly if you use a solar PV system to generate the electricity for your heat pump. Of course, there are also a lot of incentives available, particularly in this area for customers of Con Edison. Thousands and thousands of dollars per system. For some of these system applications, you could be looking at over half of the cost being covered by incentives from Con Ed and from the federal government. So definitely, if you're interested in a heat pump solution, speak more with your installer and visit the Adopt Clean Energy website to learn more about these substantial over I believe a $700 million investment that is being made in heat pumps over the next few years. There are also a variety of financing options that are available both through NYSERDA programs and also through the contractors that are serving Adopt Clean Energy, and a variety of of special groups and local banks and credit unions. So the best place to get started here is to visit the Adopt Clean Energy website. And with that, I will turn it over to the next speaker.
Jeremy, thanks so much for that informative session on heat pumps. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce Soraya Sampson, President and CEO of the Urban League of Westchester. Soraya, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening. It's evening, everyone. I want to say, first of all, thank you to Mayor Norm, thank you to NYSERDA, thank you, Representative Bowman, for your support, and most of all, thank you to Diana Edwards and Marvin Church of Comrie Enterprises for bringing this project to our attention, bringing this great need in our community and a way for us to meet the needs in our community to us so that we can partner with you. I think what I'd like to do really is just tell you why the Urban League thought it was necessary to partner on this project so that you have an understanding of how this came about. Part of our work is to deal with social justice, and environmental justice is social justice. We all know that climate change is real, and we know there's a need for us to build healthier and cleaner ways to react. When the folks at Comrie brought it to us, we understood that it fell in line with the mission of the Urban League. The parts and components of this are very important to us. The issue of raising awareness in the community that this technology exists needs to happen because most people are unaware of it. And so that becomes vitally important just to raise awareness in the community. The Urban League also is very committed to building a diverse workforce. And there is a workforce development component to this project that's very, very important to us. We have tried, it's been very difficult in COVID, but we've tried to marry a lot of the clients that we work with in different programs with the workforce development component of this particular program as well. And that gives them real income that can sustain their family and a career path to grow. And so we're hoping that in New Rochelle, you're able to help Comrie and help us in order to identify individuals who may be well suited for career path in clean energy and installment as well. And finally, to really install the technology in the community is also important. So folks have testimonials that they can give to their neighbors to understand that this is worthwhile, this will reduce their costs, this will help their community be healthier. And we're just hoping that it gets a good roll, it gets a good start, and it's well received in the community, and that we can support building up a healthier community. And so I thank all of you, but Diana and Marvin, thank you most. Take care.
Thank you very much, Soraya. Great messages there. Next, we have one of our contractor partners, Omar Hernandez from Yost and Campbell, to present on a case study that involved installing an air source heat pump. Omar, you have the floor. Omar, it looks like you are muted.
There we go. Am I good?
Yes,
Am
we
I
can
good?
hear you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Omar Hernandez. I'm a comfort consultant over at Yost and Campbell, and I'm pretty much the front line. I meet all the people that are looking to go into this program and have a heat pump as a source of heating for their house. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick case study of how an installation and how one of those visits went. So I went to a house locally here in our area, and it was a 2-family house, but the whole house was actually consumed with the whole family. So it's 3 bedrooms upstairs, 3 bedrooms downstairs. Both areas had a common living area with a living room, a kitchen, and a dining room, right? So their biggest complaint was they had a natural gas boiler that was about 25 years old. It was steam. They had a lot of rooms that weren't getting heat. They were thinking about changing to a new steam boiler. So I presented this program. This program solved a lot of issues for them. And basically with the steam system, natural gas steam system, you know, the steam has to rise, and usually the radiators in the beginning get real hot, but the ones at the end don't. And you're usually cranking that boiler, so the whole house gets hot, and the first radiators are really, really, really hot. So it's very uncomfortable. So what the heat pump did for this family was I was able to put one of those ductless mini splits in each single room. So now every room in that house ended up being 6, 7, almost 9 units in total. Every room was zoned, right? So this added a lot of efficiency for the house. So in the rooms that needed more heating, they were able to crank it up. Rooms that didn't need it, they were able to keep it down. But the best thing about this program was how affordable it made it to people that couldn't afford it before. So I'll just give you an example. So this particular system for this house was a 14-day job with equipment, material. At Yost and Campbell, we're a full, one-stop shop. So we do the electrical, we do the equipment, we do all the filing fees, all the permits, everything is done in-house. And this job, without any rebates or anything like that, was coming out to $82,000. That's a lot of money, all right? But after all the rebates with the heat pump rebates, the homeowner got a rebate all in for $70,900, which brought the cost down to that homeowner to $11,597. And they were able to switch over from a natural gas steam system that was 25 years old to a more up-to-date heat pump system, able to cover the entire house and zone the entire house. And, you know, we handle everything. We do the manual J, we size up all the houses, you know, we count the windows, measure the rooms, everything is done in-house, which is really nice. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Omar, for that great overview. Again, if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we will do our Q&A after the speakers have come up. So let's see. Next, it looks like Greg Elcock might not be in the room at the moment. So we will move forward. We have Andy Franks, the president from SEALD. I will pass it over to Andy, and we can come back to Greg in a minute if he shows up. Andy, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Marilyn. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Awesome. I'm going to try to go full screen here. So first, I want to thank Marvin and the Adopt Clean Energy team for inviting Sealed here today. So my name is Andy Frank. I'm the founder and president of Sealed. We are a private financing and services company that is literally invested in clean heat. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I unshared this. I apologize. Of course, it never works the way you want to when you're trying to share your screen. We are literally invested in clean heat, and we're particularly invested in Westchester County, and I would say particularly in this area, in the New Rochelle area. And we're very excited about the launch of the campaign, and we're excited to be a partner of the campaign. A little bit about Sealed. As I mentioned, we're literally invested in clean heat, and that's not only figuratively true, that's literally true. We're on a mission to make every home healthy, comfortable, and clean for the planet. And we know that starts with heat pumps, it starts with weatherization, it starts with smart home technology. So we work with many local New York utilities, but also very importantly, local certified contractors with our financing and service model to make upgrading homes easy and affordable. And we do that really by focusing not on energy and not on even the environment all the time, but really on the problems that we all feel every day. What we found is the best way to increase the adoption of clean energy and clean solutions is to really focus on comfort, health, safety, all the issues that we all feel in our homes every day. So drafty rooms, icy floors, uneven temperatures, hot and cold spots, out-of-date heating and cooling systems, maybe that are too loud or cause other problems, and of course, poor air quality. And I think there's more and more data that's showing that with fossil fuel systems in our home, or what we like to call kind of dead dinosaur systems, right? They're not always the healthiest for our indoor air quality. So we really want to help our customers to be healthier in their home, more comfortable and safe. Sorry. Oops. You can see a little GIF or GIF that we have here to show that. So what we do is we modernize homes through deep retrofits, right? Through insulation, weatherization, heat pumps, HVAC solutions, and smart home tech. And we not only put up the capital to install these projects, but we also only get paid back based on the actual energy reduction. So we're kind of putting our money where our mouth is when it comes to the performance of these projects. And then we help manage the process from beginning to end. And one thing that we found was really important is explaining what heat pumps are and what they do in accessible, easy language is really important to expanding the mass adoption of heat pumps. So if you'll indulge me, and hopefully this works, let's play a quick
Hey, look, it's your heater and air conditioner. This power couple has been with you through a lot, but lately they're a little tired and certainly noisier. They've made friends with the repairman time and time again. You know it's time to make a change, but researching equipment and contractors can be a hassle, never mind the cost. So why not try climate control from Sealed? It's a comprehensive plan that improves your heating and cooling without breaking the bank. You'll get a new heat pump system that heats and cools your house, all in one unit. Heat pumps give you consistent, clean airflow with room-by-room temperature control. They can even plug right into your existing infrastructure. Heat pumps are whisper quiet and can use as little power as a toaster or two. That's up to 3 times more efficient than traditional HVAC systems, which means they're great for you and the planet. Sealed even covers the upfront costs. You only pay us back if you save energy. Plus, Sealed coordinates all the work for you. Contractors, equipment, everything. So you get a brand new system with none of the old headaches. Still not sure? Just ask the Queen. Heat pumps are even being used in Buckingham Palace. So you can rest easy knowing they'll work for your palace too. It's time to say so long to these two. And hello to climate control from Sealed, the smarter way to heat and cool your home. Sealed. Make yourself at home.
So I showed that shameless plug to demonstrate what I think is really important about what we all need to do as part of this industry, which is to make heat pumps sexy and to make them cool. I'm going to steal something that friend Danelle from Blockbauer talks about a lot, which is basically putting a Tesla in everyone's basement, right? Basically, the Tesla of HVAC is really what we need to drive, and kind of the sex appeal that we're trying to really get for people, because it's not just about kind of the dollars and cents. It's really about how people feel and what they're excited to buy, which is what we're really focused on. So what does that look like? You know, we've been working in New Rochelle and Mount Vernon for a long time, largely on weatherization. Our heat pump product is a little bit newer. But to give you a sense of what that looks like, right, these are big projects, as has been mentioned before. We're, for example, one customer in New Rochelle doing comprehensive air sealing, attic wall and insulation in the foundation, as well as putting in a new heat pump. We do both ductless and ducted. We found ductless units in particular are a really great solution for many different home types in this area. And you know, the truth is it costs a lot of money, right? These are big improvements, but you're getting 2 in 1, right? You're getting both an improved heating system as well as cooling system. And the great news is there's great state and utility rebates that can help offset the cost. So we're doing projects that are saving, you know, upwards of 40, 50, sometimes 60% on total energy reductions, and SEAL is able to cover those upfront costs. And again, customers are able to pay us back based on the actual energy that's reduced. So we're excited to be a partner. We're excited to help many more homeowners make the conversion to clean heat and heat pumps, and excited to partner with all of you to make that happen.
Thank you, Andy. Happy to have you. Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Shelley Mayer, Senator from the New York State Senate. The floor is yours, Senator Mayer.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. Let me get out of the other Zoom. One of the dangers is you do 2 Zooms at once in politics. So I will get out of the other one, but thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to my friend Marvin Church and Diana Williams. But you know, I am honored to represent a portion of New Rochelle. I share it with the Majority Leader, Andre Stewart-Cousins. Because of gerrymandering, I have the north side and the south side, and she has the central side, so to speak. But after Ida, I went door to door to a number of houses in my district in New Rochelle that were absolutely devastated. And it was clear that whether it's institutional change in the way our cities work, investment at the state level in major infrastructure and flood mitigation, or helping individuals in their homes recognize the impact of climate change and prepare. We have all of these challenges we absolutely must face, and it's incredibly important that we do it in communities like New Rochelle, where we have a significant number of folks who are struggling with their home ownership. They have many challenges along the way. To have such an affordable product as Omar Hernandez described through NYSERDA and through the other partners here, this is a game changer for New Rochelle, and I couldn't be more pleased. This is exactly why we fight for climate change at the state level, and why we're so glad to partner with you in ensuring that cities like New Rochelle and the diversity of New Rochelle represents the real commitment to climate change by New York. This is for every house, and this is for everyone who can benefit. And thank you so much to all the partners, and certainly thank you, Diana and Marvin, for stepping up in the city of New Rochelle as a partner. And thank you, NYSERDA, and everyone else for making sure this happens. Special shout out to my friend, Representative Bowman, for being part of this as well. But this is a model that we want to replicate. And I can tell you from the homes where people lost everything on the basement and first floor, now is an opportune moment as we rebuild to make smart investments that are long-term, wise investments, addressing both climate change and a better way for people to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Mayer, for being here and speaking to some very important ways that we can support New Rochelle and the green energy transition. We really appreciate your time. We also have Zach Fink from ZBF Geothermal to speak about another case study, this time a ground source heat pump. Zach, you're on.
Thank you. Uh, Let me see how the technology sharing goes today. All right,
Looks good.
it looks good. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to talk about an affordable housing project that we did. Geothermal pictures tend to show a little bit nicer on the commercial scale, but the principles that I'm going to show here can easily be applied to residential as well. So a few years ago, we started on a 127 unit affordable housing building in Far Rockaway. It was built to passive house standards, 113,000 square feet. The developer really embraced clean heating and cooling. So the first phase was built with an air source heat pump, second phase geothermal, and the third phase is being built with geothermal as well. The coolest part of this project to me is that an apartment, and this is affordable housing where you can get an apartment for say $300 or $400 a month. It's $10 a month for heating or cooling when that used to be $100 plus. So from a social economical standpoint and from someone's bills, that makes a huge difference. The site where the dot is right now, that's the first phase. The second phase is the one that looks under construction to the left. And in New York City and Westchester as well, you have MTA infrastructure, and there are certain permitting requirements required around that. This was the first project that New York City approved and New York State MTA approved in this proximity to the railroad structure. So we were able to, create new grounds and be able to increase the availability of geothermal. So this particular project, we have 36 boreholes. We drilled them each to 450 feet deep. We have a number of circuits going into the building. It's currently installed under the parking lot and the playground. So the space where it is, it can be used for additional items. I'm going to show at the end 2 upcoming projects, both of those where the loop fields are under the building. So for new construction, when people tell me that they don't have room to drill, we'll find the room to drill. We've yet to find a project that we couldn't fit geothermal, ranging from 400,000 square foot office buildings to 1,200 square foot houses. So just a quick diagram showing all of the dots are where the loop field or where the boreholes are located. So there's 36 of them on both sides of the building. And as I mentioned before, this was really a first project. It was the first project in New York City that was a closed loop system for affordable housing. It was the first geothermal system in a passive house building. At the time of the installation, when it started, it was the largest one in the United States. It was the first project to get that MTA approval. We've since got it on 3 or 4 additional projects. And on Long Island, we were able to get PSEG, who doesn't have as great incentives as Con Ed, to develop a rebate program in order to rebate this. So everyone always says, what is involved in geothermal? So the top left photo is the piping that goes in the ground. It's polyethylene pipe. Think about sprinkler pipe, which is a thicker wall that's going to be buried deeper into the ground. It's installed by a big drill rig. If you have young kids, they'll love it for the first hour and then hate the noise for the rest of the day. And because we drilled so close to the transit structure, we were required to just make sure that we didn't disturb it and we didn't move it at all. The structure is still standing. It's been there for 100 years. We anticipate it to be there for hundreds more. So just again, just some more install photos. This is what the manifold inside the building looks like. For commercial buildings, it doesn't really take up any more footprint. This is next to the trash compactor. If I didn't point it out to you, you probably wouldn't know what it is. And then inside the apartments, this is what the unit looks like. Not invasive. You change the filter through the cabinet in the front. The air comes right out the top, and there's a thermostat on the wall as well. So just to reiterate, $10 a month for heating and cooling. I personally think that's the coolest part of this project. And then just talking about 2 upcoming projects. We have the largest geothermal system in New York City coming up. It's a 26 and a 16-story tower, 153 boreholes under the building, about 450,000 square feet. And then in Westchester, we're starting a project in Tarrytown, which is a senior affordable housing. The loop field partially under the building, partially in available space. It was an old YMCA that the developer is redeveloping. And geothermal makes a lot of sense. This project's going to get about a $900,000 rebate from Con Edison, which more than covers the added cost of geothermal for this project. And with that, if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll get to them.
Thanks, Zach, for that overview. Great information in there. We also have with us this evening Peter McCart, Director of Energy Conservation and Sustainability at Westchester County. Peter.
Well, hello. Thank you very much. This is informational, of course. Zach, that is really fascinating, quite frankly. And, you know, I'm a big geothermal thermal fan. And, you know, the county executive is an advocate of this as well, as much as we can, everywhere we can. And I just want to thank Comrie and Marvin and Diana for doing what they can for, you know, New Rochelle, Mount Vernon, and Yonkers, hopefully. And I'm fully committed to working with you all. And I'm going to leave it at that so we can get back to more of the information. But I'm always available. You know, I'm gonna leave my email and my phone number in the chat there for anybody that wants it. But I want to thank everybody for coming forward. NYSERDA is always there for us. And I thank Comrie again. And that's about it. Thank you very much, Marilyn. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that message, Peter. We also have Lee Smith from American Solar to present a case study on a solar energy project. So I will pass it to Lee. Do we have Lee? Are you with us, Lee?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
There you are.
And
welcome.
And you missed 30 seconds of wisdom, but I'll quickly repeat it. I basically said thank you to everybody, and I'm glad to be here. So I've been doing solar power for 15 years. We do residential, commercial projects throughout New York State and New England. I've done projects in 30 different states. It's an interesting time to be in the solar business because there's more interest in solar than ever before. Second, the advent of the heat pump as a solution for reducing the use of non-renewable energy for heating has created a new role for solar because heat pumps use electricity. And so when you combine solar with a heat pump, you're really making a lot of sense. And then add to that the electric vehicle and able to charge. I personally am so enthusiastic about electric vehicles. I just got one about 3 months ago. I haven't been to the gas station since. I feel sort of bad. I went to the guy for years and years. And now, you know, I just drive by and because I'm getting all my energy from my house, from my wall unit. So
you don't feel that badly.
I don't feel that bad, Peter. You're right, but you know, he's been. It's interesting because he's been in the. You think about it, the gas station business has been around for 60, 70 years. Okay, and my great grandfather had the first Ford dealership back in 1920 something. In the area where I grew up. So we've been living with the car for the combustion engine for 100 years. And we've been living with natural gas and oil heat for years and years. And we are right on the verge of the transition. And hopefully if the president's program goes through, it's going to be accelerated. And here in New York, we've got these great incentives for heat pumps and terrific incentives for solar. In my experience, the reason people do solar is to save money. That's it, okay? Saving the environment is nice, but at the end of the day, it has to make sense to them economically. And we have great incentives. And we're, you know, we have the dubious distinction of having among the highest electricity costs in the country. So the solar power systems we do, and we've done dozens of projects in Westchester. We've done lots of projects in New Rochelle. My office is in Mount Vernon. We've done projects there. We do a lot of projects in the city. Break even in 5 to 6 years with a combination of the savings on the energy and the tax incentives, because you've got the state grant from NYSERDA, which is still there. It's not as big as it once was, but it's still there. You got the federal tax credit, you got the state tax credit, and then in New York City, you have a property tax credit. So you have a lot of incentives, and you have a high cost of power, so you're generating a lot of value. We are big advocates of owning your solar power system if you can, because it'll add to the value of your house. You'll save much more money in the long run. And really, this is all about building up your personal equity and your wealth by saving on and freeing yourself from Con Ed bills. We typically get people down to about $15-20 a month on their Con Ed bill. And today we're doing bigger systems because people are bringing the heat pump into the picture. And that makes a great partnership. You know, we're available for people. We do free assessments. You can find us on the internet, you know, American Solar Partners. We're in Mount Vernon. We'll come out and talk to you and give you the information. The number one barrier to the adoption of solar is lack of information. People really don't know very much about it. And I think the same is probably true of heat pumps. They know even less about heat pumps. So as we educate people, and programs like this are going to help do that, I think the adoption rate is going to increase, and it makes a lot of sense. And one last thing, and Omar understands this, you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with these outrageous Con Ed incentives. I mean, people. We have a customer in Yonkers who's getting solar on her house. She had a $90,000 conversion from oil to heat pump, and Con Ed's picking up 80,000 of it. That's, you know, that's like winning a lotto, and that's not going to last forever. So people really need to be aware of it and take advantage of it now, because it really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do the right thing and have Con Ed pay you for a change to do the right thing. So with that, I'm going to leave my email and cell in the chat. Anybody wants to learn more about solar and whether it works for them, we'd be glad to help you. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Lee. We are definitely excited about solar and the ways it can pair with heat pumps and electric vehicles. So thank you. Next up, we have Dirk Fields from the Westchester Community Action Program. Dirk, you are on.
Good evening, everyone. And that's Westchester Community Opportunity Program that I work with. The weatherization program has been around for 50 years. In fact, this coming October is our 50th year that we've been in existence. We provide weatherization services to low-income families who cannot afford services on their own based on their income. So what we do is we provide insulation, just in general, a home energy audit to see where and how the homeowner is actually using their heat, losing heat, and what we can do to actually help lower their energy usage. I think this would be a wonderful partnership for all of us in terms of getting together and targeting those folks that are that fall into that low income category that cannot afford to pay for a lot of the service that we all are offering and that's being offered to them in the community. Again, I just think I want to thank Marvin. I want to thank Diana and Comrie just for inviting me on board for tonight to hear the information. And I think for New Rochelle, I've done a lot of projects in New Rochelle. In fact, I've done a multifamily building, New Rochelle Municipal Housing Authority. I just finished a project with them this year, along with several single family homes where we spent over $1 million this year in New Rochelle alone, trying to help those families lower their costs and live comfortable in their house, in their homes. So I think it's a partnership is overall, it would be great for us just to get together and try to move on into the new century, which is going to be heat pumps. and geotherm. So I'm just looking forward to it. And just thank you for having me on board tonight.
Thank you so much, Dirk. And just so I am aware, it's Westchester Community Opportunity Program?
That is correct.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. Thank you for your message and thank you for being here. Now I'm grateful to introduce Dr. Diana Williams and Marvin Church from Comrie Enterprises and directors of Adopt Clean Energy. Diana and Marvin, happy to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Marilyn. Really appreciate it. Diana, would you start the slide presentation? Okay, Diana. Okay. Adopt Clean Energy is a full part of the first group of community teams, so supported through NYSERDA's Climate Heating and Cooling Communities Program. One of the 8 community teams so far are working with our residents and businesses to benefit clean heating and cooling, and we're helping to meet the state's energy goals. Next slide. Adopt Clean Energy is a community service campaign for the cities of New Rochelle and Mount Vernon, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and a program to help Urban League of Westchester and Comrie Enterprises educate residents and property owners about heat pumps and their benefits, teach residents about the many ways to finance heat pump installations, vet professional installers to work with residents, guide residents about what to expect during installation, provide cost-free training for Mount Vernon and New Rochelle residents to install heat pump installers, assist trainees with job placement, apprenticeships, and others. Invite volunteers to save our planet by spreading the word about heat pumps. Next slide, please. You may contact Adopt Clean Energy, learn about how you may get heat pumps in your home, business, place of worship, and any structures you own. Sign up to meet a heat pump vetted professional contractor. Sign up for free heat pump training, and you can go to www.adoptcleanenergy.earth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marvin. Thank you, Diana. I just want to take this time to thank all of our incredible guest speakers. Thank you so much for your valuable time, and we are grateful to have heard from you all. At this time, I'd like to pivot to the Q&A session, and during the presentation, we did ask that you could put your questions in the chat. It looks like at the moment we don't have any burning questions yet, but if there are any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. And oh, it looks like Siri does have a question. They ask, can we get grants for the heat pumps? And I'll ask who would like to answer that question.
I'm happy to. Yes, there are sizable incentives as has been repeated by several folks on this call for heat pumps. It really just depends on what application that you're pursuing to determine the size of the incentive that you'll get. But they can range anywhere from just based on the numbers, anywhere from 40 to 80+% of the cost of the system being covered by incentives that are deducted from the cost of the installation. So by and large, also, you don't have to wait for that rebate to arrive. Your contractor can take is expected to take that off of the cost of that they are quoting to you. There are also, I will add, additional incentives that are available through NYSERDA for folks that meet certain income eligibility requirements, either through the Assisted Home Performance or the Empower New York programs, and encourage you, if you think that you may qualify for one of those programs, to visit the Adopt Clean Energy website and NYSERDA's website to learn more about your potential eligibility.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for that answer to the question. And feel free also to unmute yourself if you have a follow-up question. We'd be happy to take it.
I see a question here for me from Bill. It says, hello, I have a question for Omar with Yost & Campbell. If I use your company, would I have to go to the building department? And the answer to that question is no. We handle it all for you. But whichever building department we need to go to for you, we will handle that service. You do not need to leave your house. We will give you all the paperwork. We'll take all the paperwork to the building department. We handle all that for you. It's full service.
I saw that Omar asked me a question, which I can answer. Do you do solar for apartment buildings? Yes, we do solar for apartment buildings. In fact, right now we're doing the largest solar project for an affordable housing complex in the city, 2,500 unit complex in Queens. We're putting 2.5 megawatts of solar on the various areas there. So we do apartment buildings. That's you know, it's a roof issue of how much space is on the roof, and you have to work around with that. And Omar, I had a question for you. Is there a federal tax incentive for heat pumps? And is it covered under the proposed legislation? Or maybe someone else knows.
I can't speak to the proposed legislation at the moment, but certainly geothermal heat pumps can receive a tax credit of up to 26% of the cost of the system. And then the air source heat pumps and heat pump water heaters can receive an Energy Star appliance tax credit of $300. That the Energy Star tax credit is scheduled to expire at the end of 2021, though it has been extended something like 3 times in the last 4 years to be retroactive. So stay tuned for more information on that. The ground source tax credit will stay at 26% for a few more years.
So a typical mini split air heat pump doesn't get a federal tax credit?
It should. I mean, it's going to be $300 for the entire system as long as it is Energy Star certified. And most systems that qualify for Con Ed's rebate will be, but some of the larger systems may not. Of course, that pales in comparison to incentives of $2,000 to $5,000 a ton for the cost of the system. And just for context, the state average cost is somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 a ton for a heat pump, depending on where you are in the state and how complicated the installation is. So, the main incentive here for air source heat pumps and mini splits is going to come from Con Ed if you're pursuing a larger system that's intended to be serving most, if not all, of the heating in the home.
Yeah, and this is Don, and what I'll add to that as well too is that there are no state tax credits for heat pumps, neither geothermal or air source heat pumps, which I'd love to see. As you know, there are state tax credits for solar. So if we can be a parity with solar, that'll be a wonderful thing.
When is NYSERDA going to get a state tax credit for heat pumps?
We'd love to. We've tried.
Well, you got a new governor. Now's the chance.
Yeah, well, we're going to try again. With the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and the deliberations of the Climate Action Council, in the coming months, you're going to see a lot of things. We have very aggressive carbon reduction goals. with 40% from our 1990 levels by 2030 and 85% by 2050. We want 100% of our electricity come from renewables by 2040. So some of this may require, some mandates. We don't know. I mean, but there's going to be some aggressive recommendations, and we hope both the legislative and the regulatory bodies will respond in kind.
Okay.
Thank you so much to Donovan, Lee, and Jeremy for expanding on that. I do have a question for Zach Fink, if you don't mind. And I know this is quite variable, but how long does it typically take to install a ground source heat pump for a single family home?
Yeah, so if the distribution system's in place, typically we can do it with 2 or 3 days of drilling outside, and we can do the switch over inside the house in a day. If we need to retrofit ductwork, it typically takes about a week inside the house.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that information. All right, are there any other questions from our audience? Feel free to unmute or put them in the chat.
Yes, I have a question. I want to know, how do residents qualify for the SEAL program?
This is Augusta Miller from SEALD. I can step in for Andy. So for the SEALD program, there is a online qualification that homeowners can take. It takes about 3 minutes. And, some of the baseline qualifications are, around how long someone's lived in their home, how recently they've done upgrades, how often they're in their home. Because SEALD is a performance-based finance model, we need to make sure that they're in their home enough that we can predict their energy and do that properly. So those are a few of the qualifications, but everyone can go on, and like I said, it takes about 2 minutes. And I just got one more from the, no, there we go, never mind. I can let Omar jump on that.
Omar, feel free to expand on that.
Hello again, it's me, Omar again. When somebody's having an air source heat pump installed in their house, whether it's a ductless system or a ducted system, the homeowner and their family may remain in the house. As we do work section by section, we seal off the section that we're working in, and once we're done in that area, we open it up to the homeowner, and we move on to the next section of the house. So homeowners do not have to relocate while we're doing our installations. That's it.
Good news. Thank you so much. We also have another question in the chat. Does SEALD ever ask residents for money?
So we're not a totally free program, no. The way that SEALD works is we will talk to customers about what they're comfortable with their budget for heat pumps and weatherization upgrades. So, depending on the project size, customers may want to put a little bit of their pay for a little bit of their project up front in order to keep their monthly bills comparable with what they are now, so that their energy savings stay the same. Or they may want all of their costs covered up front, in which case, they may end up paying a little bit more monthly after they've gotten the work done to cover those upfront costs. So, if you're getting, a big weatherization and heat pump job done and you want all of your costs covered, you may see a little bit more in your payments monthly after that. And we work with the customers to make sure that it's, aligned with their budget, and most importantly that, they're comfortable making those payments, knowing that their home is going to be more comfortable.
Thank you for that follow-up. Bill has a question for Omar. With the clean heat rebate, do I have to pay the entire amount and then Con Ed pays me the rebate?
Okay, so the answer to that question is you do not have to pay the whole amount. You're only going to pay the amount after the rebate is applied. So for an example, if the job is $60,000 and you received a rebate for about 50 or 55,000, let's say 55, you'll only be responsible for the $5,000. And the rebate, it comes right off the top, so you're not responsible to pay up front and having to wait for the rebate. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Omar, and thank you, Bill, for asking. If there's a follow-up question, feel free to drop that in the chat. We do have another question. How much do residents save with a combination of solar and air source heat pumps and/or solar and ground source heat pumps? It looks like that would be a good question to ask Lee.
Well, it partly depends on how much space they have on their roof. If you have a lot of space, if you have a good sized roof and you can get 8 or 9 kilowatts of solar, 30 panels up there, when you combine, you can save up to easily $2,000 to $2,500 a year on your energy costs between the solar and the heat pump. And that's assuming the heat pump will save you about $1,000 a year. And Omar can probably give a better estimate than that, a more accurate estimate. But you'll save $2,500, $3,000 a year if you have a good solar roof situation.
I might add also, it depends on the heating fuel that you're using right now. If you're heating with electric baseboard heating, propane or oil, you're going to save a lot from switching to heat pumps that are powered by solar. Gas, you should still save some, but not quite as much, and it's just based on the cost of fuels right now. But certainly the cost of fuels always change, and one of the benefits of installing a heat pump powered by solar is that everything has already been paid for up front if the heat pump is being powered by solar, and so your cost over the course of the lifetime is never going to change, whereas we've seen fossil fuel prices spike all the time.
As a follow-up question to that, how much of the solar installations are covered by rebates?
Well, the incentives, so the NYSERDA rebate covers, between the rebate and the tax credits, at least 50% typically are covered of the costs, 60% in some cases, between the federal tax credit, the state tax credit, and the grant from NYSERDA, one-time grant. So a big portion of it. The one thing, people have to recognize about heat pumps and solar, they're the only home improvements you can make that pay for themselves. You can put in a new kitchen, you can put in a new bathroom, you can do all kinds of things to your house, but none of them will pay for themselves. Whereas a heat pump or solar will pay for themselves and end up putting money in your pocket. So it's a wealth building, equity building tool as well.
Thank you for that answer, Lee. Appreciate it. And yes, totally agree. So this question might be good for Omar and Zach. How soon after I speak to the heat pump contractor can I get a heat pump installed?
I'll go first. Oh, go ahead, Zach. You can go first.
No, Omar, you can go. That's fine.
It all really depends. All depends on obviously filing, right? You have to get permits involved. You have to get approved for the rebate, and then we have to order equipment. Right now, it is a little tough getting equipment, but some of our suppliers have been really on their game, and some haven't. With the computer chip shortage, I'm sure a lot of people know it's hard to get equipment, but it's kind of a little bit of a game, trying to get the equipment and install it in a timely fashion. So it really just depends on your local municipality and the permits, as well as us getting the equipment. But on average, it could be anywhere from maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
And I would say geothermal, I'd say geothermal is a little bit more involved. So we typically see 2 to 3 months from the time we finalize a deal, by the time we get the permits and the engineering completed, and get the installation done.
Thank you both. Appreciate that answer. So are there more incentives coming for heat pumps and solar? That is a very interesting question.
Well, I mean, I think that Lee may well be right that, in some cases we might not see better incentives than there are right now. I mean, certainly, like if you're removing your heat pump system and your existing system, replacing with the heat pump, Con Ed's going to pay for anywhere from half to 80+% of the cost of that. It's kind of hard to beat at this point. Certainly, as Donovan said, there are potentially other policy and legislative changes as a result of the climate, the CLCPA and the Climate Action Council scoping plan. So that could result in more programs that can further support the installation of renewable and clean systems.
Thank you, Jeremy. And related to that question, what happens if I don't want to convert to heat pumps? Can I continue to use oil or gas indefinitely?
Actually, this is Donovan. I'll answer that. In the long run, we hope the policy recommendations to that answer would be no. We cannot achieve the goals that we are striving to achieve if we still use fossil fuels. So at some point, I always use this example that natural gas grew in New York City and in Westchester. Well, particularly in New York City, because they banned number 4 and number 6 fuel oil. So people just switched to natural gas. And so you make some changes in the law and the regulations, and it can move an industry, and that's what I see potentially happening here. We need to get off of fossil fuels, and at some point, both the legislative and the regulatory sides of the state will be in sync and in alignment with accomplishing that.
Thank you, Donovan. And yeah, I do seem to see that the fossil fuel prices will increase over time, especially as we deplete our resources, but also having heat pumps, having solar, electric vehicles, they're all a great way to be good to your health and the planet at the same time. And they're renewable, so.
And if I may add one other thing, because I know the conversation has been about clean energy and heat pumps, but what also the agenda is creating a clean energy economy. So we want to train people, residents, and particularly people in communities that have not participated in the fossil fuel economy to be trained for good paying jobs in the clean energy economy. So this is a big shift. So just as a point of reference, New York State spends, gosh, probably in excess of $60 billion a year on energy, electricity and gasoline and fuel oil. Probably close to 70–80% of that money leaves the state. We're energy consumers, not energy producers. So the more we can produce our energy locally, wind, solar, and use geothermal energy that's using the electricity we generate locally, that could be billions of dollars that stays in the New York State economy, which is huge and tremendous and a good thing.
Thank you for expanding on that, Donovan. We really appreciate that insight. We do have another question in the chat. If I don't want to get a heat pump water heater, will I lose rebates or incentives if I don't get rid of my boiler for domestic hot water?
Okay, so I'll answer that question. The rebates for the domestic hot water heater, the heat pump version, is separate from the heating for the house. So if you do not convert your domestic hot water tank over to a heat pump version, you will still be eligible for the rebates for the heating system. Now, when it comes to your heating system, you can also leave it in place. There's different versions of the rebates and incentives. There are some incentives that if you remove your natural gas heating system, the incentive is much larger, can cover 90, almost 95, even 99% of the cost to remove that system and put a heat pump system in. But if you want to leave your system, you want to have two systems, maybe you want to have a backup, you can do that. And they have rebates for that as well. And the rebates are really good. Even if you leave your heating system in place and add an air source heat pump system, some of these rebates can range from 50 to 80% covering that cost of the installation, and you still get to keep your natural gas heating system. But there is a caveat to that, right? You have to install what's called an integrated control system. So basically, we're going to connect your hydronic system or your steam system or your forced air system to this new air source heat pump system, and we're going to put it set point. So below a certain temperature, the natural gas will kick in, but above that temperature, it will always be the heat pump. So you won't be using both at the same time. You'll be using the heat pump the majority of the time. Hopefully that answered your question.
Just to add quickly on to Omar's response here, the gap in the rebate between totally decommissioning your boiler and installing the integrated controls is $1,500 a ton. The average home needs somewhere between 3 to 5 tons of capacity. That extra incentive could easily pay for a heat pump water heater or a new water heater, and you would still say you would actually come out ahead of that. So you know, I would say, you know, talk to your contractor, whether it's Omar or someone else, figure out all the options that are available to you, because you may find that the numbers pencil out differently than you might expect.
Thank you. So Donovan, this is a question for you. How long are these rebate programs going to last?
Well, currently the rebate program we have is called New York State Clean Heat Incentive Program, and that's administered by the investor-owned utilities, so Con Ed and others. Those incentives will last through 2025. Now, that's just this program. I can't speak really beyond that, but what I will say is that we have goals going out to 2030 and to 2050, and we have to accelerate. So literally, this is the truth, we have to increase our installations over the next really 20 to 30 years, each year, 10 times where they are today. So I would anticipate incentives continuing, but I can't speak beyond 2025 at this point.
We do have another question for you, Donovan. Matt says, we are a growing geothermal heat pump manufacturer who is based in Albany, New York. On your point about creating a green economy in New York State, are there any grants for scaling up clean energy manufacturing? We are currently working with NCORE and NextGen. Any others we should look for?
You should follow up with me. Maybe you can get my information and I can think about it, because there really isn't. But manufacturing, let's put it this way. We want manufacturing in parts of the supply chain in New York State. So having a New York State heat pump manufacturer, I want to know who you are, what you're doing, and hear about your heat pump and seeing how we can help.
Thank you, Donovan. So where can I get training for ground source heat pump installation?
Well, the primary training institution is called International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, acronym IGSHPA. They offer an accreditation called the Accredited Installer, and that is the requirement to be an eligible geothermal installer in our in actually utilities, New York State Clean Heat Incentive Program. So either go through the New York Geothermal Energy Organization in New York State, or go on the IGSHPA website to see when they have the accredited installer training programs.
And related to that, someone might ask, I lost my job during the pandemic. I don't have the money to change to heat pumps. What can I do?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. Certainly, we recognize that not every household is financially able to take on the investment of a new heating or cooling system. Certainly, while this program may be limited time, as Donovan said, incentives will be available for quite some time. The other thing I would note is that there are programs that are available through NYSERDA that can serve folks that meet certain income thresholds or are participating in some form of utility payment assistance program. I don't know, Donovan, if you want to speak to those, but certainly there are the Empower New York program. If you qualify for that, it will include measures like improving the efficiency of your home and potentially installing a heat pump, depending on the cost effectiveness, and those will be covered entirely by the state program.
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you. Tiara asks, if I live in an apartment building, would I only be able to get an air source heat pump instead of getting a ground source heat pump? What if I wanted my hot water to be connected? How would I go about doing this process? Would I have to go to my leasing office to get permission? Great question.
Well, yeah, if you live in an apartment and renting, you won't be able to put a geothermal system in your apartment. And I guess you'd have to check with your leasing office to see if you can put a air source heat pump in. And if it's a condo and you own it, it's very, very, very different. It would be air source, but it would be difficult to do a ground source heat pump for one apartment. However, if there's space, parking lot, or open space, the apartment can install a geothermal unit. I mean, Zach mentioned that we're doing that in lots of multifamily buildings, and we'll call it district systems now, where we're actually doing it in small communities. But yeah, for an apartment, not geothermal, it'll have to be air source.
All right, next question. Does it make sense to convert from electric heat to heat pumps?
Yes,
yes,
because
100% yes.
Yeah, from an efficiency standpoint, as Jeremy mentioned in his presentation, electric resistance, the coefficient of performance in terms of efficiency is 100%. For one unit of electricity, you're going to get 1 unit of thermal energy. A heat pump, particularly a ground source heat pump, you'll get up to 3 to 5, in some cases maybe even more, units of heat for 1 unit of electricity putting in. So yeah, the 3 best candidates for heat pumps are homes heated with fuel oil, propane, or electric resistance.
All right, next question. If I don't want to get a heat pump water heater, wait, hold on, not that one, sorry. What happens if I don't want to convert to heat pumps? Can I continue to use oil or gas indefinitely?
Well, for now, but at some point, your system is going to reach its end of useful life. And at some point, again, I'm speaking, how can I put this? Talking to the future is what was being proposed. What's being thought of and proposed is that there will be a time that you cannot replace your fossil fuel system in kind. You'd have to replace it with a clean heating and cooling system, primarily a heat pump.
With Indian Point closing, where is the extra electricity coming from to run heat pumps?
Initially, it's going to be using gas, so the grid will get a little dirtier until we get on some of these large-scale offshore wind projects and these community solar, these solar farms online. So it will be natural gas for a short period until we switch over to the renewable electrons.
All right, next question. On the topic of increasing home equity, do ground source heat pumps or geothermal installations offer the better overall benefit?
I would assume that's air or ground source heat pumps. It's hard to say. I think you know, I've been trying to, you know, keep track of, you know, how have, you know, realtors and such been following the, you know, some of the trends in energy efficiency. Certainly there are, you know, there's evidence to show that folks are willing to pay more for more efficient homes. Whether that translates to, you know, the full value of a geothermal or an air source system is sort of, you know, I think the industry is a little bit behind in how it represents, you know, some of that true value to a homeowner. But certainly, you know, one of the most common cases that we see for folks installing air source heat pumps is also to add, you know, a form of central air conditioning to the home. And that certainly adds, you know, studies have shown that adds several $1,000s of value to a home on resale.
Yeah. I've talked to Department of State and oversee appraisers. The issue is comps. There aren't that many homes with geothermal. Geothermal, there've been studies that showed it does add to the value because it reduces your energy costs. So that's another thing that I'm trying to figure out how we can make some progress, because if the investment in the heat pump system actually increases the value of your home, then when you sell your home, you essentially get your money back. Yeah, so and it could be cash positive. So yeah, we really would like to see that the value that the heat pump creates, particularly ground source heat pump, creates for the home is factored in. Now, going back to Lee's point, I mean, the new bathroom, granite countertop, it doesn't pay itself back, but in the eyes of an appraiser, that's important. So they'll put a value on the granite countertop over a ground source heat pump or air source heat pump. We hope that changes in the near future.
Thank you so much for answering. Lee, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, just on this issue of value of real estate. In the case of solar, because it's several years ahead of heat pumps in terms of adoption, thousands and thousands of people have gotten solar. There have been very, very extensive studies on the resale value of homes that have solar. And they've found that it's very positive. It will increase the resale value. And it really is for two reasons. One is because there's curb appeal. People like the idea of a house with low utility bills. That's one thing. But the second thing is that because it's positive on your cash flow and your operating costs are going to be lower, your mortgage underwriting will be more favorable because the banks take into account your operating costs when they're figuring out what kind of mortgage you can afford. So it does have a direct effect. And my guess is that as heat pumps become more widespread, you're going to see the same evidence that you saw with solar. And I would suspect that the evidence is out there about energy efficiency and insulation as well. All of these things increase home values, resale values, because primarily because they lower operating costs.
Right.
Thanks so much to our expert panelists for giving some insight to those questions. I'll ask at this time, are there any last minute questions from our audience? All right, I don't see any more in the chat and it doesn't sound like anybody's piping up. So I just want to take this time to thank our speakers again. Thank you to the audience for your questions. And again, your learning is not limited to this presentation. So feel free to visit www.adoptcleanenergy.earth for more information. And the Adopt Clean Energy team will be happy to work with you to start or continue your green energy transition. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great job, Marilyn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Have a wonderful night.